Okay, we are off. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. My name is Andrew Becker. Thank you for all for attending. As we move forward, I'm going to be letting some folks in. I see Dodie, you just raised your hand. Did you want to say something? Oh, I think it might be down now. All right. Um, Thank you for joining us today, guys. So this is our brown bag series. This is put on by the Capo Gold Coast chapter. We do these kind of professional development trainings over the past year. And it's in an effort to get us all kind of some good Pro-D training on things not only on procurement, public procurement, which all of us are, very tied to that community in California in the Capo organization, but also the things around procurement, the things that affect us in our finance departments, in our administrative departments, kind of a big picture professional development series. So we've started the Brown Bag series, and our guests today are the Procurement Excellence Network, who most of you might know. They've graciously offered to present today on this topic. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a second, but I just wanted to say, if you haven't already checked out their organization, it would be incredibly valuable for you to do so. I've been following them for some time. We've been involved in several of their projects that include municipal organizations like ours, an extremely valuable group of people who are dedicated to helping us in our positions as professionals. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Penn. Thank you, Penn.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian, and thank you everyone for inviting us. We appreciate the invitation from the Capo Gold Coast chapter. Let's kick it off. So we've been looking forward to this session for weeks. My name is Dominique Saunier, and I'm a project leader supporting the Procurement Excellence Network, and it's an initiative of Partners for Public Good, which is our parent organization. Some of you in the Capo chapter I know are already PIN members, but some of you may not be. And so I wanted to briefly take a moment to introduce our community to you. It's a free online virtual community with over 3,000 and growing state and local government professionals who want to transform their procurement processes to be more efficient, fair, results-driven, and strategic. And we like to say it's a community of procurement nerds, folks who really, really enjoy talking about the function and advancing the function, modernizing it. And we appreciate the opportunity to be in the virtual space with you all who care about procurement just as much as we do. I'm joined today by several of my colleagues from Penn. You'll be able to identify them by their blue backgrounds. They look a little different, but they all say Penn, so just look for the Penn icon in the corner. And you'll hear from each of us in the presentation today, and later each of my colleagues will take a brief moment to introduce themselves. Please share, your name and your jurisdiction in the chat. We're new, so we don't really know who's in the virtual room, and it'll give us an opportunity to get to know you as we're communicating with you for the next hour. And so during this hour, we know that it's going to pass quickly, but we want to accomplish, a lot of things today. And as time allows, this is our agenda. So as the session signals, we're talking about demystifying AI applications of public procurement. And so we're going to spend most of our time talking about what AI actually means in practice, where it can add value, and how it can really support core procurement work across various use cases. But we don't want this to just be a conversation where we're just talking at you. We also don't want this to feel abstract. So we're going to carve out some time throughout this hour for there to be interactivity and engagement and hear from you how you all are thinking about AI and how you're seeing really tangible opportunities for you to apply it to your work. And then we're going to close this session by talking about Penn and giving a little bit more robust introduction into our network. And hopefully, by the end of this call, some of you will join us and be a part of our community. So we're looking forward to that. Now we do, like I said, want to make this session engaging. And so we would just ask your support in a few ways. I think first, if you can, please turn on your camera. Would love to put a face to the name in this virtual space. Also, please feel free to join into the conversation. So periodically, we're going to be asking you all to share your thoughts or participate in activities. So feel free to do so. And we just want you all to feel involved. And so in the spirit of getting involved, here's an opportunity right now. So we know there's a lot of emotions and perceptions and ideas around what AI means, what it is, and how it could be used, especially in the public procurement function. And so we wanted to kick off this call today by encouraging you all to share some of those feelings with us, but we hope in a fun and interesting way. And so if you love movies, I think you're going to really love this activity. So take a moment to reflect on this question before you actually respond. But if your procurement team's current stance on AI usage were a movie title, what would it be? Would it be The Matrix? You're curious, but questioning what's real and what's hype. Is it The Terminator? Is it not worth, is it not worth the risk? We're not planning on using AI anytime soon. Or is it Groundhog Day, talking about AI repeatedly, but little has changed? There's a few other movie titles on here as well, but would love for you all to drop in the chat where you all think the movie best aligns to your placement. So, okay. So we're seeing some responses trickle in. We're seeing, okay, Apollo. Keep going, keep going. Jurassic Park. Okay. The Matrix. Okay, come on, keep them coming. We'd love to see some more responses from. Okay, Jurassic Park. Oh, Groundhog Day. So we're starting to see a spectrum across, okay, another Groundhog Day. Okay. We'll give it another few minutes, moments, not minutes. And oh, we have a new edition, The Waiting Game. I'm not familiar with that movie, but
The Waiting Game.
Can someone tell me what that means? Like, what context would that? Okay. Oh, Ellen, you're Apollo 13, Groundhog Day. Okay. Well, Rashad, I would love in the chat if you want to explain what the waiting game would be in the context of, this question. Oh my goodness, Sandra, Night of the Living Dead. Okay. We have these are really great examples. So keep those coming. But it's really, we appreciate you engaging with us, and we think this is fun. And we thought it was a really helpful question to really ground like how AI is being thought about across public procurement. And so now let's really get into the meat of this presentation. We're here to talk about AI, so let's get that started. Emily, I will turn it over to you to kickstart our discussion.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dominique. Good afternoon, everyone. I love seeing all of the creative ideas about movie titles and how it relates to AI. And that makes me feel good because I think we've targeted this presentation appropriately to kind of get at all those different issues that you guys are describing. My name is Emily Royal, and I'm the Assistant Director overseeing the Procurement Excellence Network. And I'm just really excited to be here today and to have an opportunity to connect with y'all and talk a little bit about responsible AI in practice. So as Dominique mentioned, we're going to start by discussing what AI is and share a little bit of context to help paint a picture of what responsible use of AI looks like in government settings. You may have heard that term floating around. We're going to talk about what that actually means in procurement. And then we'll discuss a little bit more about what it means to use AI responsibly in procurement and share with you some examples of cities and states across the US that have leveraged AI effectively in the procurement function. And last, we're going to touch on some of the risks associated with AI use, as obviously this is an emerging field and the implications of this tool and its use in government are still being studied. So let's get started. Okay, so I just want to start with some level setting on what really is AI. This is the White House definition, and I think it's a good one because it captures the ability of AI to influence decisions. So it reads, any machine-based system that can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, make predictions, recommendations, or decisions influencing real or virtual environments. I think that's a pretty good level set of what AI actually is. And it's also important to understand that AI is also a field of science. So when we're talking about AI, we may be referring to many different types of artificial intelligence, including things like generative AI, machine learning, and computer vision. So how does all this show up in government settings? While there are hundreds of use cases for AI in government, there's really three main classes of AI use that are beginning to surface as some of the most common use cases that we're seeing in government. First, generative AI is being used to create information. So you might think, for example, a 311 chatbot that is interpreting your policy and sharing information directly with residents. Or you may think of using AI for translation services in town halls. Computer vision is very different, and it's being used to identify visual information. So, for example, in traffic management applications, you may be using computer vision to detect roadside debris on a highway, or even identifying criminal behavior in the public right-of-way. And last, machine learning is being used to forecast future outcomes. So thinking about evaluating benefits eligibility, for example, or using AI to forecast economic and budgetary conditions. Now, all of these are very different types of AI technology, but all of them are increasingly showing up as RFPs or use cases for solicitations that are showing up on procurement teams' desks across the country. So if we are starting to use machine systems that leverage tons of data to predict outcomes, make recommendations, or influence our decision-making in different ways, it's important that we do this intentionally and carefully. And that is what folks are referring to when they talk about responsible AI. But what does that actually look like in practice? At its core, responsible AI is about making sure AI systems are used in ways that are transparent, explainable, trustworthy, and safe. Transparency means that people can actually see how the AI tool works. And you can do that through documentation about the system. It's usually provided by the vendor that helps users understand when AI is used, what it's doing, and what are the factors that are influencing its outputs, like training data, for example. Explainability is about comprehension. This just means that you can audit the output of a system and understand how that output was generated through step-by-step explanations. And we'll get into some examples of why that's important. Third is trustworthiness, which is really about reliability. Are the results coming out of this tool accurate? Are they verified by a human? Are they being monitored over time? Are they consistent? And these are all the kinds of questions you want answered before you spend a significant amount of time, energy, and public taxpayer dollars on the tool. And finally, safety. And this refers to ensuring that systems are tested and maintained to avoid harms like privacy violations, security risks, data leakage, lots of things that you're probably hearing from your IT departments, hopefully. Using AI safely, especially in government, means ensuring that any AI system that you're purchasing or using supports essentially these 4 principles. And that can often boil down to asking vendors the right questions about AI transparency, for example, during a solicitation process. So in that way, procurement teams really do have the opportunity to shape responsible AI use in their organizations. But responsible AI practice is not just about the technology itself and how we evaluate it and understand it, but it's also how we govern it and oversee it. Accountability is critical. We want humans, right, not machines, to ultimately be responsible for decisions. That means that we need clear ownership and the ability to audit how AI is being used, especially in government settings. And I want to give you a concrete example to really think about why this matters. So imagine that you have contracted with a consultant to review thousands of affordable housing applications. That consultant is using AI to help determine eligibility. So some key questions start to come up. What is the risk of denying eligibility to somebody who qualified when you use this tool? How are those decisions being made? Are there any mechanisms to audit those decisions? And just as importantly, do we really know that the consultant is still applying their expert judgment rather than just relying on the output of an AI tool? That's where accountability really shows up in practice in our environments. It's not just enough to use AI. We have to also ensure that humans are being actively responsible for its outcomes. Secondly, because the performance of AI tools can change over time, both with system updates and new revisions to some of these tools that are coming from the frontier models, it's very important that we establish processes that continuously monitor the performance of these systems. So think about what kind of contract provisions could be in place to support this. What kind of reporting data would you need consistently from a vendor over time to help you evaluate how the system is doing? And then last, you want to consider how these products are introduced into your organization, regardless of whether they're being used as an internal tool or for delivering public services. So rolling out these products really should be done with employees, not to employees, with residents, not to residents. And good change management ultimately involves clear communication, regular user testing, and communication about guardrails for use. So while setting up AI governance processes like these may fall outside of the realm of responsibility of a buyer or a contract manager, we do encourage you to find a seat at the table. And because we're finding that procurement is a really important piece of the overall puzzle for governing AI use in government. And it's through our solicitation process and contract management procedures that we really have the chance to proactively set some of those guardrails, as well as asking the right questions of vendors to ensure that we have the information we need to make responsible decisions when we use AI tools. And for these reasons, we really encourage procurement teams to see themselves as drivers of AI strategy alongside IT, legal, and security teams. And we'll talk a little bit about how to get involved in some of that strategy setting within your organization. So let's look at some examples of responsible AI in practice. We have a really great set of examples from our research that we want to share with you. One is from the city of Amsterdam, which is well known for publishing a list of AI tools that the city uses as a algorithmic registry, is what they call it. And it translates information about these tools into really easy to understand language for the public for their own awareness. The GovAI Coalition has created a vendor fact sheet, which is a very powerful tool that really allows, I see some clapping, that's awesome, that really allows folks to ask the right questions of vendors as a baseline when you're purchasing AI tools, and you can download that template for free from their website. And then last, the city of New York City, has established a city office that's actually responsible for auditing AI tools and publishing their findings online to the public. All of this are examples of transparency in action. Now, when it comes to explainability, cities have taken a variety of different approaches, ranging from policy to digital literacy support. One of my favorites is the city of Seattle. They established an AI policy that actually requires formal review of how AI systems that are purchased by the city makes decisions. And they also evaluate who's impacted by those decisions before those tools go live, especially in public service settings. The city of Boise adopted a risk management framework that enables them to classify different AI tools by risk level. And they do that ahead of time to determine what kind of governance they really want to have for each tool. So instead of applying the same procedures for every single AI incidental use in your organization, you're really triaging what's actually needed based on risk. What all of these examples have in common is that they're creating processes that ensure that AI is properly documented and evaluated, so that its use and outputs can be clearly communicated to all the stakeholders involved. Now, when we talk about trustworthy AI, like I said earlier, it really means that that the AI performance is adhering to our expectations over time. And different cities have tackled this through a variety of mechanisms, including governance committees, establishing performance standards, and consistently monitoring results. So many cities are establishing AI governance committees that are essentially cross-departmental teams like IT, legal, program leads, cybersecurity officers, procurement staff that review and approve of AI use cases before going to bid. We're seeing that a lot, and I've been encouraging procurement teams to really step up and advocate to be part of those governance committees if your city is establishing one. San Jose, California recently began even setting performance standards through benchmarks in evaluation criteria. So they're actually starting to require vendors to demonstrate how well AI systems perform according to the things that the city of San Jose cares about most. So for example, if you're purchasing a generative AI tool for police report writing, how accurate do you want that tool to be? Is 95% of the time accurate okay? These are the kinds of questions that you want to be setting and asking, and even including in your eval criteria, as San Jose has done. And finally, when it comes to contract management, you might want to consider what it would look like to monitor the performance of these tools over time. We know now that AI models are starting to show what's called drift, which means that their performance is reduced. Their accuracy is reduced over time. And so to combat this, some cities are starting to require in their contract monitoring processes regular review cycles with the vendor to validate that the products are still producing reliable results. And last, when it comes to using AI in operations, it's important to keep a few things in mind. First, your organization should have or establish policies for AI use that prohibit staff from inputting personal or private information into AI tools. This is because when you input that data, it may be incidentally used by the vendor to improve the system. And that means you lose track of where that data is being stored in the future. Now, you can negotiate in contracts to ensure that the data that you input into ChatGPT is not being used by OpenAI to train their products. And for governments, that's critical. Second, your organization or your own procurement team may want to think about having a plan in place for if or when something goes wrong. What's the chain of command for incident response? These are really important things for not just your own organization and cybersecurity team to think about, but for your procurement team to think about as well. And third, always require, of course, that AI tools are evaluated by your chief cybersecurity officer or some comparable leading authority before you're using it. In this second section, I really want to start diving into how procurement teams across the country are starting to use AI for their own operations. And we want to share with you guys some early leads of what we think is really working well, what we're seeing other cities and states do, and also a little bit about some of those risks as well. Next slide. So across all of our research, we're really starting to see 5 common use cases for the use of AI that's surfacing. They're coming through from our Penn members, folks that reach out to us to share these use cases with us, conversations we're having with our membership, and we're really seeing these 5 start to emerge. The first one's around market research. Probably you guys are all already using AI for market research. It's being used to quickly analyze use cases, determine existing players in the field, understand the market landscape, and really what the whole environment is about for that particular use case. We're also seeing RFP drafting and scope of work drafting. This is where teams are starting to use AI to actually create first drafts of RFPs and scopes of work based on templates and contextual information that they're providing AI systems. I've seen teams do both, building their own AI agents using things like Claude Code or Codex, for example, to do this work. I've also seen cities partner with vendors that are creating platforms internally that support this kind of use case. Third, around contract monitoring and management, we have some great examples of how AI is being used to actually surface insights across contract data to improve contract management practices moving forward for the organization. And then we've got 2 kind of customer service type approaches. One is an internal customer service, so think a chatbot that is being used as a guidance tool for procurement staff or for other organizational staff that are trying to navigate complex procurement policies or organizational policies. See a lot of use cases of HR teams using this as well. And then we're also seeing the flip side of that, which is providing chatbots to provide information to the public, in particular for procurement vendor communications. AI is being used to help vendors really navigate your processes, your policies, rather than having to have somebody get on the phone with them every time they have a question. And as you can imagine, there's probably some significant efficiencies with that, but maybe some risks too. Like, what's the risk of bid protest if your chatbot says something wrong to a vendor? Okay, so I want to get into some really juicy examples. First one we have here is from the state of California. So California recently evaluated the accuracy of different AI models for how well they performed market research. Their hypothesis was basically that AI would streamline and expedite market research processes and reduce their review cycles. But they also discovered, interestingly enough, that not all models are built the same. Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude all had different accuracy levels when it came to market research. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this use case, we recommend that you join us for a workshop series that we have called Procurement Practice Labs, where we're going to hear directly from Angela Schell, who is the Chief Procurement Officer for the state of California. She's going to talk exactly about this experiment. Tennessee launched an internal platform that uses AI to generate RFPs. As I mentioned earlier, they're using AI to generate RFPs and scopes of work off the bat. They're training the AI on their own historic templates they have for different types of procurements, and then providing contextual information and prompts to the AI to generate these RFPs. I will say that this effort is currently being piloted. So the jury is still out on how accurate this is, how reliable it is. And Tennessee is definitely keeping a close eye on any risks of hallucination in the process, but they're about 6 months into this, so it'll be interesting to check back in and see how they're doing and what the results are. Next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about contract monitoring and management. City of San Antonio, which is where I hail from, where I used to work for the last 7 years, piloted an AI tool that actually scanned contract data in order to surface key insights like discounted terms or upcoming renewals that they were missing. They discovered through that process that the city actually had over $130,000 of uncaptured savings through discounted terms that they just weren't taking advantage of, that they were missing in a systematic way on a regular basis. So clearly, there are real material opportunities to improve contract management in this use case. But the city also had an important finding, which is that they needed to actually do a complete overhaul of how their contract data was stored and managed in order to take advantage of the AI tool. To make all of that data readable by the AI, they had to completely change their practices. So the city of San Antonio hit pause on that to go fix their data before they invested completely in a brand new tool that would do this work. San Francisco, alternatively, used AI to support new procurement staff and some of their internal staff with a chatbot that could answer questions specifically about procurement policy and procedures. It's called Page. It's internal, so you may not find a ton of information about it online, but it is intended to provide that information directly and particularly to new staff that are joining procurement teams. They also identified some risks in terms of incorrect information that some of their entry-level staff were receiving, and then they ended up adopting that as best practice. And so they had to mitigate that a little bit, but I think that they have fine-tuned their model to reduce some of those risks. And last, the city of LA took a similar approach, but as I mentioned earlier, they really turned it outwards to help the vendors navigate their procurement processes. They were able to increase staff time and to reduce a lot of procedural burden around that particular topic, but they also had to mitigate the challenges of potentially providing inaccurate guidance to bidders and the potential of triggering bid protests through inaccurate information. So they had a lot of disclosures that were present on the bot, but that's one of the tools that they use to navigate some of those challenges and risks. So I've shared a lot of examples with you of some things that are going well, some common use cases, and I would love to just pause for a brief reflection. I want to hear which of these use cases do you think would have the greatest impact on your own team's effectiveness? Is there one missing that maybe we should have included? I would love to hear it. Maybe drop your thoughts in the chat. And also, we're happy if anyone wants to come off mute and maybe share a little bit about which of these makes the most sense for you.
I will jump in. So I just put in the chat that our procurement team is attempting a chatbot, and that's been an interesting experience to monitor the accuracy rates. We're kind of playing around with it still. It's kind of hit a stop for right now, but what we've done is we've kind of provided the sandboxed AI our internal policies, we're trying to kind of shape it from there. It's given us a pretty good success rate, but so far that's only been determined off of how we ask the questions. And I'm very curious to put this in a study group of some sort with our departments, because we want it to provide helpful answers, right? And we're phrasing things probably really nicely and differently than they would.
Right. I don't know all the details yet, but I do know that the state of California example, they had like control groups and testing groups for each of the different models. So they tried to like address some of that challenge of like, well, this is how we would use it and it works great for this, but what if, somebody is framing a question in a way that, the chatbot has to really interpret. So yeah, really exciting that you guys are doing that work. And I'm seeing some folks in the chat as well. The internal customer service. I'm curious how people feel about the AI-assisted RFP drafting. Let's see. Yeah, so somebody in the chat is asking, I'd like to hear if others are using AI to assist with evaluations of RFPs. If so, to what extent? Anybody have an answer for Brian?
This is Liz from the Los Virgenes Municipal Water District. Yes, I would say right away. I think that what you're going to notice with AI, especially with the further development, is that people are going to be getting a lot of bids. I know we had a Capo Cafe meeting recently where someone was saying he got 100 bids and how was he going to manage this? And I think that is going to be something that is going to be a further discussion on platforms like this, where AI is responding to our formal bids and how are we going to manage that and weed those out. None of us have staff to review 100 bids. But I will say recently we got 12 bids, which is fine for us. I will say the committee threw them into AI and they basically used it as an additional tool to provide, I wouldn't say the whole committee, each person themselves was using it as they wished to drive how they were gonna, review the formal bids. So basically a pre-qual look, I would say. I think at the end of the day, that needs to be, handled very carefully because we don't want to miss anything. So a lot of management on that and reassessing what AI had to say about it and confirming that that part was true, and then giving specific, very clear direction on how to tell AI what to look for and give back the feedback, very detailed so that you're getting the information that you want and need and is valuable.
Yeah, 100%. I have heard use cases of folks using AI to draft evals and to perform evals. And there is one cautionary tale I'll share with the team from Bellingham, Washington, where unfortunately one of the staff members, there was an audit essentially, or a vendor protest. And so it led to a whole audit of the process. And they found a prompt that person input saying, to ChatGPT, please draft evaluation criteria that excludes precisely this vendor, which obviously that's unethical. But of course it made headlines and created a lot of concern. So that is definitely a use case that I think is very experimental, but it would be really helpful to have some data to help folks really determine how safe it is to use those tools for that purpose. But in that case, that's a human error. Okay, I'm going to move on, but really great discussion and exciting to hear that you guys are already experimenting with this. We just wanted to flag some risks, and this is a scary slide because it's got 11 risks listed on here, but the main takeaway is really that when it comes to AI, a lot of the risks are the same as any other IT procurement. But a few of those are accelerated by AI tools and in some cases unique to AI tools. And we've highlighted on this slide what we think those are right now. So when it comes to something like, data and data governance, as I mentioned earlier, any information that's uploaded into these tools could potentially be used by vendors for product improvement. So you do have to consider the scenario where, by having AI evaluate bids, you may be putting sensitive IP into a tool that itself is sharing that information with another vendor, right? So you want to make sure definitely that you have that provision in any contracts that you're using with some of these models that they are not using that data to train their products and services. On bias and discrimination, of course, we know that AI can inadvertently reproduce bias based on the data that's being used to train it. So in a solicitation, you may want to ask a vendor to produce information about their training data. Have they tested their models for bias? These are all open questions that you can absolutely ask. We've talked a lot about, oh
yeah,
yes,
Brian.
please. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think that was just a mistake. All good. Okay. And then a little bit about transparency and explainability. We know that this is really one of the more unique risks that are associated with AI. And in our next Penn event, we're going to unpack in a lot more detail what to ask vendors to ensure that your organization can explain AI's outputs if needed. That's an event upcoming on July 22nd. Okay, last slide, and then I'll turn it over to Dominique. So at the end of the day, as procurement teams, you all have major tools in your toolbox to influence AI use in your organization. We say that those are three main things: solicitation, evaluation, and contract management. The solicitation itself is an opportunity to clearly define the use case and really to leverage the scope of work to create clear requirements. This is obviously the go-to where vendors are going to try to figure out what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and usually lead with that because it may be possible that you don't actually need AI to solve that particular problem. Next is the evaluation process. We recommend leveraging this to set specific performance standards for these tools. Again, San Jose is a great example, but you want to ask yourself, how often would you tolerate mistakes on a high-risk use case? Those are the kinds of questions you should be asking and baking into a scoring rubric that includes some of the responsible AI principles that we talked about earlier. And then finally, of course, contract management is a really powerful tool when it comes to tracking the performance of these systems over time. So as I mentioned, behavior of AI systems is dynamic. It may change. New updates, new models really change performance standards. And we know that the more you use one model, the more its performance degrades. So do everything in your power to leverage contract management as a tool to be able to ensure periodic reviews with your vendor, check-ins, data that you might require from the vendor to ensure that performance is meeting your expectations. Okay, that wraps up this section. I had to cut it a little bit short given the chatter, but I've really enjoyed sharing all this info with you, and I am excited now to pass it on to Dominique for an opportunity to engage you in a reflection.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And thank you all for participating. We had a lot of rich discussion, and I'm glad we can build upon that discussion in our next segment. So I flagged earlier in the call that we would have an interactive moment. And so we're going to pause now to explore how you all are thinking about using AI in your governments, both current and then opportunities. And so I want to introduce an activity called the AI Opportunity Stoplight Exercise. And so in a moment, we're going to drop a link to a Zoom whiteboard in the chat. So please try to open it. If anyone has any issues, let us know in the chat. But this whiteboard includes the 5 use cases that Emily just went over: market research, AI-assisted RFP, statement of work drafting, contract monitoring management, internal customer service, and vendor communications. And what we would like you to do is pause for a moment to look at each use case and then add one sticky note with your jurisdiction's name to show how your procurement team is actually using or using AI or considering AI for these use cases. So you'll see there's 3 stacks of stickies. There's a green stack, a yellow stack, and a red. And so green is you're currently exploring or already using, this AI in this for this use case. Yellow, you're interested, in exploring. You think there's a good opportunity. And then red is somehow there's just not an option. Perhaps there's barriers or other reasons that your government has already decided you're probably not going to move down that path. Answer from the perspective of your procurement department as a whole, not necessarily how you are approaching your work individually. And yeah, maybe we can take a couple minutes for you all to start moving around stickies. Is anyone having any issues or challenges with creating a sticky note?
Yeah, for me, it looks like it says guest 11 is presenting, use case number 4. So I don't see the whole, like the 5 of them again.
Me too.
Okay.
It went away.
All right, let's give us 1 second. Is someone presenting? Maybe someone clicked something by accident. So
There we go.
Can you all
There we
see it
go.
now? All right.
Now we're good.
So if you go to the left, you'll see in the instruction section, there are 3 stacks of stickies: green, yellow, red. Just grab a sticky for each of the use cases. And again, green is you're currently exploring, yellow potential, and red not an option. All we need you to do is add your jurisdiction name to each of the stickies, and then we'll come back together in a couple minutes and go from there. So when you're done, put a thumbs up in the chat so we know that we're ready to have the discussion. Thank you so much for participating. And just for awareness, if you all could maybe write out your jurisdiction names, even if you do it for one and then you put your acronym in parentheses for one of the stickies, it'll help our team be aware of the full jurisdiction name. And again, like once you do it once, we'll be able to see it across the other stickies as well. Thank you. Okay, I see we have a lot of movement. Maybe let's give it another minute so folks can finish writing their thoughts, and then we'll come back for discussion. Okay, all right, continue to add your stickies, but let's have some discussion. So as we look at the board, seeing a lot of greens, which indicates that already you all are exploring using AI in a few of these use cases. So maybe could we hear from maybe Ventura County Probation Agency? It looks like you guys are using it for contract monitoring and management. Would you like to come off mute and share a little bit more about maybe
Yeah,
what tools you're using?
so hi everybody, I'm Curtis Heath. I'm the contracts manager for Ventura County Probation Agency. I'm also the Gold Coast chapter treasurer. So we use a tool called Monday.com as like a workflow automation and as like a general contracts listing. So I can keep track of all of the contracts that I have to process every year. And I'm still very new to the AI functions within the software, but it does have a lot of different tools and widgets that I can use to automate the flow process. So I've got, a list of, let's say, 5 or 10 different touch points that might need to be done every year for renewal, whether it be insurance or drafting an amendment, maybe board approval, that kind of thing. And so I want to find ways to streamline that or create quick reports or like a search box that I can say, okay, how many contracts do I need an amendment on next year versus a new agreement? How many of those need board approval, that kind of thing. Rather than me having to like filter through or search through, I want to be able to ask it a certain question similar to that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And you said you use Monday for
Yeah.
Monday.com? Gotcha. Awesome. Maybe let's take a look at vendor communications. So I see Conejo Valley. You all said it's not an option to use AI for vendor comms. Would you like to maybe share some thoughts there?
Yeah. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm concerned, just in part because if we were to allow it to be automated, and especially within a school district environment, there's a lot of stakeholders, and as you're aware, like we're front and center when it comes to like political uh, debates, especially in our board meetings, and it just a very challenging environment that if we were to, incorporate an automated, communication device and something were to go wrong without it being, having oversight from an administrator, it could be catastrophic for us and we would make the news.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And but I do see that you, for internal customer service, for example, you added a sticky for potential. You want to share maybe where you see AI really helping you in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I do like to gauge feedback from our departments and from our school sites, and I just see that doing it in an automated way would be, far more efficient.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And then let's maybe go over to AI assisted RFP and statement of work drafting. So Golden Gate Bridge, you all are already using that. Would you all like to share a little bit more about that context?
Sure. This is Brian. We started, I would say, 6-8 months ago when we're looking at different RFPs to help draft some scope, especially for items that we don't know a lot about or something that we are looking at for the first time. And we're we're using things slowly, I would say. And one thing that was talked about was being careful on what data you enter into one of these large language models. And we've got a system called Glean that we're using that is a closed loop system. So we're able to upload specs and things like that to have reviews done where we know the data is not going to get out. The last thing you want to do is be looking at specs and scope, and one of your vendors finds it out there on ChatGPT or something, and it's got a 2-month advance notice on any other vendors before you post it. So I wouldn't say we're using it widely yet, but we're definitely testing the water, so to speak.
Awesome. But so far, testing the waters, it's been going well.
It has been, yes.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So I think this was a helpful exercise even across your organization to see where your peers are, where they're thinking, what they're currently doing, and where they're interested in exploring. And I think this could be a really great tool for you all to continue to refer back to, and you all will retain access to this whiteboard, but come back to this and maybe look at, areas you're interested in exploring. And if there's a peer that's in the same section, connect and continue the conversation. But thank you all for engaging, because I think this has been really helpful for us to understand where you all are thinking, and also hearing real risk and challenges that you all are considering when it comes to AI. So I'm going to close this section out by just leaving with some tips on how you all can continue to be empowered as you all explore AI for your procurement teams. I mean, there's certainly a lot of opportunity to harness AI tactically. So we encourage you, if you have not, to build on today's presentation and continue having exploratory conversations, if you haven't already, across your departments, and talk about the reservations, the barriers, the excitement, the opportunities. explore, is there currently an AI governance board or task force internally that's having these conversations? And if so, maybe ask to join, or at least get regular updates so you're privy to how your government is thinking about shifting their focus on AI going forward. Also, continue to build on today's AI stoplight exercise, and continue to also internally reflect in your team about where there are more opportunities, and talk to, again, and learn from peer governments, and just see where AI can add value. So maybe even looking at your process map and saying, maybe it would be great if we could try AI here. And then just try to find ways to test and see if you can use AI tactically for your team. Adapt, build, test various use cases, and you can start small but ramp up. But just try to see if AI can be helpful, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. You just try again and another use case. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Maya and Christiana to talk more about the Procurement Excellence Network. But thank you so much for participating in this great activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique. So hello, everyone. I'm Maya Wilson. I'm an associate here at Penn, and I'm excited to talk about what the Procurement Excellence Network has to offer government procurement professionals like you. We just spent some time talking about AI and procurement, but that's just really one example of how quickly procurement is evolving. If today's conversation sparked ideas or questions, Penn gives you a place to explore those topics more deeply. You'll gain access to a network of 3,000 plus procurement professionals, along with practical tools and peer-tested solutions. If you're looking to gain meaningful input from vendors and want to deploy a survey but don't know where to start, Penn offers tools and guidance to help you better engage vendors, ask the right questions, and gather insights that lead to stronger proposals and better outcomes. Or maybe you're just looking to revamp your RFPs and want to invite more innovation from your vendor community. One of Penn's most popular resources, the Results-Driven RFP Guidebook, helps you write clearer, more outcome-driven RFPs with defined goals and performance measures, so vendors can bring forward more creative, high-quality solutions. In short, Penn turns ideas into action by providing practical tools and resources that help procurement professionals solve real everyday challenges. Penn offers a range of free ways to support your work depending on what your jurisdiction needs. From coaching calls to virtual events, Penn is a community of continuous learning. If you're tackling a specific challenge, like writing a complex RFP, you can join a coaching call to talk through it one-on-one with one of our PPG members. If you're looking to deepen your knowledge on a specific topic, our cohort-based learning brings together small groups of peer governments working on similar challenges. Virtual events, like the one you're in today, are interactive sessions where we explore timely procurement topics like AI workflows, outdated thresholds, and storytelling in public procurement, while creating space for discussions and peer exchange. And if you just have a quick question or want to hear how others are handling something, like evaluating new technology or navigating a tricky procurement, you can tap into our community discussion board to connect with peers across the country. So, hopefully this quick spiel has piqued your interest, and I'm going to pass it over to Christiana to talk more about the Penn website. Christiana, over to you.
Thanks, Maya. Hi, my name is Christiana. I'm the Penn membership coordinator, and I think I'm here to give you a Penn website tour, and I'm going to do a quick whirlwind tour, given that we're a little bit short on time. So I'm going to share my screen. Amanda, if I can just... Are you guys seeing my screen? Great. So here we are at the Penn homepage. And at a high level, this is really a central hub for learning, connecting, and accessing tools related to procurement excellence. And really our goal is that when you have a procurement question, your first thought is to say, let me check Penn. And then here you come to our resources, our events, and a way to schedule a coaching call or contact us. So I'm going to quickly just go over to our resources first. And this is our resource library. And we have over 80 publications, including guides, toolkits, and research on procurement best practices. And it's really easy to search and filter so you can quickly find what you need. So I'm just going to go here to, or typically it's easy to find. Here we go to the search bar. And I'm just going to type in vendors. And then everything that you want to know about vendor surveys, strategies for improving vendor certification programs, et cetera, all of those topics will come up. And then I also wanted to introduce you to our community resource library, which has additional curated content with templates that you won't publicly find, we won't find available publicly, just to Penn members. So I'm just going to go to type here and then go to community resource. And then you'll see all of our submissions from fellow Penn members for a sample vendor survey or vendor performance evaluation, etc. So that is our community resource library. And then I'm going to head over quickly to events. And this is where you will find all of our upcoming events, which we have one on July 22nd called Purchasing Responsible AI, Balancing Innovation, Risk, and Accountability. And if you want to register, you just can click on that, head to the register button, and there you go. And going back here, I wanted to point out our past events, which is sort of a catalog of every event we've held previously. And for every event that we have had, there is a recording and any materials that we shared during the training event, so you don't miss out on any of the information. So, for example, our last month's event, On Time, Every Time, Strategies to Improve Vendor Payment Processes. Here's the recording here. I think I'm moving a little quickly. And then all the event materials, the slide deck and presentation materials we used for that training event. And then really importantly, what I wanted to highlight was our coaching calls. This is where if you're working on through a particular procurement challenge, or you need some guidance or someone to strategize with, you can book a free coaching call. Actually, all of our resources are free. So I don't want to just say the coaching call is free. All of our resources are free once you're a registered Penn member. And you can book a free coaching call here. And it can be collaborative. It can be coaching. It can be a conversation, or just running your ideas by someone at PPG. And this is where you would sign up for that. And then I'm trying to see how we're not doing great on time. So I am going to wrap this up very quickly and just say the next slide is our, can we go back, Amanda, to the summary slide? Thank you. So this is sort of the Procurement Excellence Network in a summary slide, and it's how to become a member. We have a QR code, or you can head to become a member on our homepage. And we do have over 3,000 government staff from over 1,000 unique jurisdictions. And to provide procurement resources, best practices, and community support. And if you register today, it takes less than a minute, and your future you will be really glad you did. And so we'd love to welcome you to the network. Thank you for being with us here with us today. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Maya.
All right, let's see how quickly I can do this. I love a challenge. All right, so if you want to continue the conversation, we have some resources that are linked here. We are going to make sure that you have access to this PowerPoint slide following the presentation today, but please check out some additional resources, as we are a community of continuous learners. We also want to make sure that you guys are registered for our event next month. As you are navigating purchasing AI responsibly, we're going to be going through some responsible AI dimensions and just a really good framework for governments to be able to approach purchasing any type of AI in the next coming months. With that, we are also excited to partner that with our procurement practice labs. Now, this is going to be a new offering for the Penn team. Procurement practice labs are applied learning workshops where Penn members apply best practices to real procurement challenges, and PPLs will follow an event. So the great thing about our Purchasing Responsible AI event is that we have it paired with the procurement practice lab. So during this procurement practice lab, you will be hearing a case study from the state of California. This is going to be a fast-paced, hands-on lab, which spans 2 interactive sessions totaling 3 hours, but it's going to help you workshop real use cases for AI tools, build practical evaluation criteria, and leave with a customized draft to apply to future purchases. So you can apply now for session 1 to draft your evaluation criteria, but make sure that you are registered for the event in July this month, in the next couple couple of weeks so that you're in the loop with what we're going to be doing in that practice lab. With that, I want to say again, we hope you really enjoyed today's conversation and walked away with some great resources and tools to help you push your procurement reform efforts forward. We hope to see you all join Penn, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you very much for today. And I can't champion enough to everyone on the call who attended and those listening to the recording. If you are to keep a resource in your back pocket for an organization to follow, I highly suggest Penn. One of my favorite past events that they hosted was vendor lock-in. If you're to try out a past event, please go to that one. It was terrific, and I think we still reference it at our team. With that, thank you, Penn, very much for your time. I appreciate all of you so much, and let us know what we can do. And send us your trainings and your resources. And again, everyone, please go visit their site. This is great public knowledge for everyone. Can I ask one question actually related to the presentation? For those of us, because we're, as I've come to find, we are a group of procurement professionals who are, gray couldn't be a better description of what our job roles are. They span a wide variety of responsibilities. For things like change management in an organization, do you have any kind of advice or feedback in how to start these AI conversations? If we are, kind of embedded in the administrative departments, we are a lone purchasing agent, which many of us are. Many of us are one-person teams. What can we do, or what is some good advice on making that happen?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So one is get curious, find out if there are any existing groups or committees that are establishing AI policy right now in your organization, and just raise your hand and advocate that procurement has a role to play in those conversations, because y'all do. You are at the stage of actually purchasing these tools, and the contracts that you design and the RFPs that you shape set the guardrails in material terms. So that is a very good justification to participate in those policy discussions. Secondly, if you all have chief innovation officers or chief information officers, the kinds of folks who are governing or overseeing your IT, I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to those folks directly and just name what you're seeing. That is definitely a powerful way to get involved. I think that change management is a huge organizational strategy, but at the end of the day, what we advocate for is for procurement teams to really see themselves as part of that strategic change in their organization. And so I wouldn't shy away from stepping forward and identifying opportunities and saying, hey, I'm looking down, the next 6 months, we've got 3 RFPs that involve AI components. Let's have a conversation. If that conversation is not coming to you, I think you can use those opportunities to start one with the right folks. Legal also is a good partner. And, all these divisions end up being very sort of divided and siloed in government. And so in a way, I think that makes those processes very isolated. But in truth, when it comes to something like AI that touches so many components, all of those folks really need to be together at the table to make informed decisions.
Great.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Penn, very much for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.